Sama, can you pick somebody to read, please?
Okay, Acharya, would you like to start? Hare Krishna, everyone. Glad to see everyone here today. Bright-faced. Prabhupada called us bright-faced because we have something to be bright about, right? Eternity. Yeah.
Nice thing to be right about. But this is
Yeah.
still June, lessons 1 and 2, continuing in chapter 12, the killing of the demon, Aghasura. Acharya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Half a second, let me just increase the size of this so I can see better. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 12, Text 25 through 28. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who is situated as Antaryami, the super soul in the core of everyone's heart, heard the boys talking among themselves about the artificial python. Unknown to them, it was actually Aghasura, a demon who had appeared as a python. Krishna, knowing this, wanted to forbid his associates to enter the demon's mouth. In the meantime, while Krishna was considering how to stop them, all the cowherd boys entered the mouth of the demon. The demon, however, did not swallow them, for he was thinking of his own relatives who had been killed by Krishna and was just waiting for Krishna to enter his mouth. Krishna saw that all the cowherd boys who did not know anyone but him as their Lord had now gone out of his hand and were helpless, having entered like straws into the fire of the abdomen of Aghasura, who was death personified. It was intolerable for Krishna to be separated from his friends, the cowherd boys. Therefore, as if seeing that this had been arranged by his internal potency, Krishna was momentarily struck with wonder and unsure of what to do. Now, what was to be done? How could both the killing of this demon and the saving of the devotees be performed simultaneously? Krishna, being unlimitedly potent, decided to wait for an intelligent means by which he could simultaneously save the boys and kill the demon. Then he entered the mouth of Aghasura.
Okay, go on.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Krishna is known as Ananta Virya Sarvagya because everything is known to him. Because he knows everything perfectly well, it was not difficult for him to find the means by which he could save the boys and at the same time kill the demon. Thus, he also decided to enter the demon's mouth.
Oh boy, lots and lots of nectar in these verses here. We can start with what does that mean? Krishna feels separation. Krishna's feeling separation from his beloved devotees. Say something about that.
For the devotees, Krishna is their everything, and for Krishna, the devotees are his everything. We've heard before in some previous classes, and we'll also hear in the future about how Krishna is actually indebted to his devotees and feels himself unable to repay them for their love. So naturally, he's concerned about them.
It's beautiful. And anything else that you'd like to say about these verses?
Yeah, could you flip back to the text, the actual Bhagavatam verses?
Mm-hmm.
A couple of words struck me as very interesting. Yeah, I liked the up here, the artificial python. That's an interesting word. I guess because he's not actually a python, but a demon assuming the form of a python. But it reminded me, you and your husband maybe will remember a devotee named Havirdan who used to live in Vrindavan. And whenever the Gurukul would put on plays, he would make like statues and mechanical forms of the different demons. And he had one room in the Gurukul where he would work on it. He called it his demon factory. And I remember they did an Aghasura demon. They actually made like big enough for the mouth to open and for the boys playing the cowherd boys to actually walk into it. And then then at the end, when he died, they put some firecrackers up in the top of the head that like blew out the top of the head. So that's another that reminded me of that artificial demon.
Unmute, Sama.
Okay. The actually, if you look at the world, there's a lot of artificial demons. It's all artificial. It's imposed. It's all imposed. All the modes of nature working together, creating all these different costumes for all of us. It's all artificial. Anything else you'd like to say, Acharya? I can't hear you, sweetie. Unmute.
Sorry, the verse is escaping my mind now. Rupa Goswami quotes it as the second verse defining pure devotional service about giving up the Sarvopati Vinirmuktam. So that's like we're all like artificial beings, and devotional service means giving up the artificial upadis and revealing the reality. So we're all artificial.
Wonderful.
Artificial
So simply.
or artificial, whatever I am, I'm artificial.
God, so much endeavor we're putting into this artificial world. I'm sick of it. I'm done. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Acharya.
I like this part where it described here that Krishna, being unlimitedly potent, decided to wait for an intelligent means by which he could simultaneously save the boys and kills the demons. And up here it mentioned that he saw this as arranged by his internal potency. So this also gives us a framework by which we can function in this world, understanding that everything's connected to Krishna, and sometimes with a little patience rather than acting impulsively, we can understand the best means by which to engage with any particular circumstance, rather than just being passionately responsive, which often brings us to an unwanted conclusion. Even Krishna, he's unlimitedly potent. I mean, he knows past, present, and future. He can do anything at any time. But it's mentioned that at that particular moment, just for however long it took him, he considered the circumstances and then decided to act with his plan. Go to the next one.
Yes. Okay. Kate, nice to see you, Kate.
Hare Krishna, dear
Hare
devotees.
Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 12, 29 through 30. When Krishna entered the mouth of Aghasura, the demigods hidden behind the clouds exclaimed, "Alas, alas!" But the friends of Aghasura, like Kamsa and other demons, were jubilant. When the invincible Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, heard the demigods crying, "Alas, alas," from behind the clouds, he immediately enlarged himself within the demon's throat, just to save himself and the cowherd boys, his own associates, from the demon who wished to smash them. Purport. Such are the acts of Krishna. Paritranaya sudhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. Bhagavad Gita 4:8. By enlarging himself within the throat of the demon, Krishna suffocated and killed him, and at the same time saved himself and his associates from the imminent death, and also saved the demigods from lamentation.
Okay, so can we leave this? Leave
Sure.
words back up there. Okay.
Yes.
What do you think about this? How alas, alas, everyone is knowing this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and yet so involved in the Leela that they're fearful for Krishna's life. And Krishna enters, and we will read it later, that he enters the demon for his own, to save himself. So how do you make sense of that? The demigods are seeing Krishna enter and saying, "Alas, alas." Don't they know that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead and no one can kill him?
Well, doesn't that mean when someone says "alas," like does that mean at last?
No,
I don't
no,
know-
no,
I
no.
don't know what that really means.
It's a regretful regret. Alas,
Oh.
alas, it's regretful that this thing has happened, that Krishna has entered the mouth of death. But then, do they know that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead and they're being covered up? Anybody answer this one? How come the demigods are lamenting like this?
Well,
Well, I was
go ahead.
I was wondering, and maybe you spoke about this last week when I wasn't here and I didn't get to watch the Zoom review yet, but the position of these boys, I mean, and anybody in Vrindavan, right, at that time, it's very different from our understanding of Krishna. And maybe it's similar for the demigods. They're just so involved in the loving relationship that it's not, they don't see him as anything other than just the object of their love. But I'm just speculating, so I don't know.
No, that's a good speculation, but not that we're condoning speculation. Okay, there's Nanda smiling, and Nanda said, "You want to say something about this?" And then Ian.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Gaur Govinda Maharaj explains that fact of how sometimes people in the past times remember Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and sometimes they forget. He gives the example of, like, if there's a big wok of milk boiling and there's a piece of straw in the milk, so sometimes by the force of the bubbles, it comes up, the straw surfaces, and then sometimes by the rolling bubble, the straw gets immersed in the milk and you can't see it. So he explained, I thought that was a really good explanation. It's in that Embankment of Separation book. How sometimes they remember that he's the Supreme Lord, but due to just like Kate said, it was a very right-on speculation, Kate. Sometimes with the force of their attachment and remembrance of Krishna as their friend or in their relationship, then they forget that he's the Supreme Lord and they're just thinking, oh, my friend, he just entered the mouth of the demon. Oh, no.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Ian?
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Okay. Yes, I'm just thinking that as part of the Krishna Leela, you see, it's not so easy to understand. There's the demigods, there's Krishna, internal potency, there's Krishna, there's the court boys, there's the demon. So when you look at it, we are saying that the demigod should be aware that he is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it could not be harmed by the serpent. But that we see in terms of Leela, they will say, he's going into the mouth, so what's going to happen? He even says Krishna is wondering, how can I accomplish two things at the same time? So my understanding could be a part of the Leela. That's all these different, different parts of the Leela, coming together. So, it could be a part of Krishna's Leela that even the Lord himself seemed bewildered, a little bit,
Yes. Good. Very good. That confirms everybody seems to be saying the same thing, that this is part of Krishna's Leela and his exchange with the devotees. Oh, Nanda again. And Acharya. Oh, this is a big one. Okay, well, Nandaji.
I have a different question. So if Acharya wants to comment on the topic at hand, you can take him first.
Okay. Acharyaji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. As far as the demigods maybe not understanding Krishna's potency and therefore they're saying, alas, alas, spoiler alert, but in the next chapter, Lord Brahma doesn't understand Krishna's potency.
Yeah, Krishna really likes to cover that. What's that called? The covering that the devotee gets covered with in order to continue with the ras. What's that word? Anyone? Come on. What's the word? It's not Maya, it's
Yoga Maya.
Yoga Maya. Yeah, Yoga Maya. She's at work here. That's what it is. Yeah, Nanda, thank you, Acharya and everyone. Nandaji.
My question was about the statement that so there was a statement that the demigod said, alas, alas, but then the demons and Kamsa were happy. So I was just curious about that. Was that just okay, sorry, but was that just a figure of speech saying that Kamsa was watching, or did he have that potency that he was watching Krishna's pastimes, you know, his whatever from his little mystic city potencies? Or is that any thoughts on that?
I thought similar. I thought similar that 5,000 years ago when this was happening, people were different than we are with our teeny weeny brains and not capable of understanding anything. So even a demon like Kamsa, who plays a really important role in this Leela, he also, his senses were more acute. And I hate to use the word also, perhaps, maybe, you know, but it's conceivable that people then were more aware, and he had a connection with Aghasura, and he could understand that Aghasura has done the job. My speculation. Patti, could you help us out here?
No, I'm not going to speculate. It seems it seems to me like it's a sentiment that Kamsa would have been pleased that Krishna was now in the mouth of the demon. That's as far as I can get. I'm looking it up now to see if there's a further comment by Viswanath.
That's a safe note to end on. Do you want to go on, or we're waiting for you to see if? Well, you have to put up the screen.
Okay.
Okie dokie. Manvantara, would you like to read? Manvantara, would you like to read, my darling?
It doesn't look like she's hearing you.
Yeah, she hears.
I'm sorry. My
can I-
audio is.
Can I say something
breaking
real
up.
quick?
Okay, wait, Manvantara, stand by. Yes, Acharya.
Okay.
I just looked up in Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, and he said that Kamsa got news of what was happening through messengers. If you,
They're
for
on
what
it.
it's worth.
Exactly. They were constantly going back and forth.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you know, we have the cell phones and they have the messengers. Humankind has always been the same. Very good.
Thank you, Acharya. I can't do both on my screen, otherwise everyone will see both.
Okay. Manvantaraji?
I'm having a problem with my audio, so if you can't hear me,
I hear you. We hear you.
Text 31 and 33. Then, because Krishna had increased the size of his body, the demon extended his own body to a very large size. Nonetheless, his breathing stopped, he suffocated, and his eyes rolled here and there and popped out. The demon's life air, however, could not pass through any outlet, and therefore it finally bursts out through the hole in the top of his demon's head. When all the demon's life air had passed away through that hole in the top of his head, Krishna glanced over the dead calves and cowherd boys and brought them back to life. Then Mukunda, who can give one liberation, came out from the demon's mouth with his friends and the calves. From the body of the gigantic python, a glaring effulgence came out, illuminating all directions, and stayed individually in the sky until Krishna came out from the corpse's mouth. Then as all of the demigods looked on, this effulgence, I can't see the bottom.
Entered into Krishna's body.
Jai.
Okay, go to the purport now.
Maybe because her audio is breaking up, we can go on to another person. There are two purports, 2 slides with purports for this.
Oh, okay. Okay, Manvantara, if it gets fixed, we'll get back to you. Tisha, would you like to continue with the purport? And then we'll discuss it, okay?
Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The effulgence came out from the python's body and became purified, attaining spiritual Shuddha Sattva, freedom from material contamination, because Krishna had stayed within the serpent's body even after the serpent's death. One may doubt that such a demon, full of mischievous activities, could attain the liberation of Swarupa or Sayuja. And one may be astonished about this. But Krishna is so kind that in order to drive away such doubts, he had the effulgence, the individual life of the python, wait for some time in its individuality in the presence of all the demigods. Krishna is the full effulgence, and every living being is part and parcel of that effulgence. As proved here, the effulgence in every living being is individual. For some time, the effulgence remained outside of the demon's body individually and did not mix with the whole effulgence, the Brahmajyoti. The Brahman effulgence is not visible to material eyes, but to prove that every living being is individual, Krishna had this individual effulgence stay outside the demon's body for some time for everyone to see.
Very good. Now go on to Vishnu's purport.
Vishwanath Thakur says, according to later verses 38 and 39, Aghasura attained Sarupya Mukti, a completely spiritual body exactly like that of Vishnu, and attained the Lord's abode. Therefore, the light which was visible was the light from Aghasura's spiritual body, which he attained at that moment. Because his body was spiritual, it could not be seen with material eyes. Aghasura's entering the Lord's body was just a show, as in the case of Shishupal and Dantavakra. Though Shishupal and Dantavakra attained Sarupya Mukti as eternal associates of the Lord, they were formerly Jaya and Vijaya. When they died, a light from their bodies entered the Lord. This is another opinion about the visibility of the light. This happened in the presence of the demigods, who were greatly astonished.
Oh boy. So there's a lot of points being made here about individuality and the light. So before we get into that, Manvantara or Tisha, would you like to first comment on something that you read? You want to put it back, Pati, so they could get an idea? Mambacharji?
No, I actually, the only thing I was thinking, it wasn't really very spiritual, I don't think.
Don't worry.
I was thinking about how in Catholic concept, when somebody dies, that's a saintly person, they canonize the body. I think I'm saying that correctly. And the body becomes, the dead body becomes this place of pilgrimage for people to come and look at. That's the only kind of thing I was thinking about, and I wasn't sure.
How does that relate to?
Yeah, I don't.
Oh,
really
no,
know. I
no,
was
you're
just
on
thinking.
a good trend. You're on a good trend there, because the pure devotee's body is worshipable, and people do make holy pilgrimage to Prabhupada Samadhi and to the Samadhis of the Acharyas, and even there's a whole religion-based Muslim. They come and millions of Muslims circumambulate the tomb of Muhammad. So this is a method of worship. And it's also confirmed. If you worship the saintly person, that brings you to God. So that wasn't a bad thing that you said. That was
Also, it said later that the place where Aghasura was killed, the body stayed there and became a place of pleasure pastimes for many of the Brijbasis, because it had, just like Putana's body became very fragrant when they burned it out because it was touched by Krishna. Similarly, Aghasura, as mentioned here, attained Swarupya Mukti, became completely purified. So it was actually a very attractive place after his death.
So, okay. The question that I have is about the individuality of the soul, and it appears that the soul left the body of Aghasura and merged into the body of Krishna. Now, does that sound like a contradiction First as individual, but then ultimately it merged into the body of Krishna.
Read this paragraph again, Sama.
Krishna is the full effulgence, and every living being is part and parcel of that effulgence. As proved here, the effulgence in every living being is individual. For some time, the effulgent remained outside the demon's body individually and did not mix with the whole effulgence, the Brahmajyoti.
Okay, right there. And then in the next purport, Vishwanath explains,
because his body was spiritual, it could not be seen with material eyes. Aghasura's entering the Lord's body was just a show, as in the case of Shishupal and Dantavarka. So, well, okay, wait, because the body was spiritual, it was not seen.
Also this part, therefore the light which was visible was the light from Aghasura's spiritual body, because his body was spiritual and could not be seen with material eyes. So that it appears that Krishna, the internal, that was arranged so everybody would see the spark and understand what was happening, but it actually took internal understanding and vision to perceive that he had attained a spiritual body. You can't see it. Because
you can't see it with mundane eyes. We're trying real hard to see it with our mundane eyes. You cannot see the soul. In fact, you have to change your vision in Krishna consciousness. You have to learn to look for Krishna everywhere. You have to change your vision. We are very used to identifying with the body and thinking in terms of our body. This is like we are addicted to it. We are conditioned souls. So with this knowledge, we have to change our vision and try to see Krishna in everything. Actually, my dear friend Nanda, she's always talking about this, how she sees Krishna in all the things that she does. It's really a wonderful, Acharyaji.
Thanks. Sorry for butting in so often.
That's fine.
Prabhupada would often give the example of the green bird flying into the green tree.
Right.
That someone whose vision is not good and understanding is not good will look and say, oh, the bird has merged into the tree because the green bird is lost in the green tree. But someone with intelligence knows that the bird, even though it entered into the tree, still has its proper form and individuality.
Right. Yeah, and we saw, as in the purport, you need the eyes. You have to have spiritual eyes to see the soul and everything spiritual. Because Prabhupada used to use that example. Next door, in the house next door, they're also eating, they're also sleeping, they're also working. And what's the difference between that house and what we're doing in the temple? We're sleeping, we're eating, we're doing it all for Krishna. Our main focus is to serve Krishna. That helps us develop spiritual vision, devotional service. Okay, good. All right, let's go. Anyone else have something to say? Patti, do you want to add to this before we go on? I guess not. Okay. Ian, would you like to read?
Yes, I'm here.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. 10.12.34. Thereafter, everyone being pleased, the demigods began to shower flowers from Kanana. Okay. The celestial dancing girls began to dance, and the Gandharvas, who are famous for singing, offered songs of prayer. The drummers began to beat their kettle drums, and the Brahmanas offered Vedic hymns. In this way, both in the heavens and on the earth and on earth, everyone began to perform his own duties, glorifying the Lord. Srila Prabhupada's purport: everyone has some particular duty. Shastra has concluded, Nirupitaha, that everyone should glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his own qualifications. If you are a singer, always glorify the Supreme Lord by singing very nicely. If you are a musician, glorify the Supreme Lord by playing musical instruments. Swanusti Tasya Damasya Samsiddhi Hari Toshanam Shrimad Bhagavatam 1.2.13. The perfection of life is to satisfy the personality of Godhead. Therefore, beginning from this earth up to the celestial kingdom, everyone engaged in glorifying the supreme personality of Godhead. Decision of all great saintly persons is that whatever qualifications one has acquired should be utilized to glorify the supreme Lord.
Wow, so leave this up here, Patti. Leave this. This paragraph is a confirmation of our own individuality. And if someone doesn't cultivate the thing that he has been gifted with to glorify Krishna, it's actually a disservice. Understand? This is really important. How are we supposed to serve Krishna? What is the essence of devotional service to Krishna? We use our energy and our, okay? Who said that? Who said something? Hello? Okay, I'll say. We use our talents to serve Krishna. That's the most important thing. And let's say I have a talent to do something and someone else has a different talent, and I think, well, I should try to do what that other person is doing, and I'm not able to perform it nicely. Meanwhile, I'm not even cultivating my own way of serving Krishna. So what's that verse in the Bhagavad Gita that says, if someone performs another's duty perfectly and doesn't perform his own duty, that is not, he is to be considered sinful? Is that what it said? It's very important that we perform our own duty. Who can say something about that?
Can I just
Yes.
make a comment?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
So
Yes, please.
as Arjuna was saying in the Bhagavad Gita, that he didn't want to fight. Better for him to become a mendicant. So Krishna was saying that you were born as a Kshatriya. So you're saying that, look, I don't want to fight. It's not his one would say is psychophysical. In other words, everybody's born with a nature. And I add to that it is said that there are 4 material assets: learned, rich, high-class family, and famous. So whatever those you get, you should use it to serve the Lord. So basically, that's our understanding. So whatever nature one has, it's your duty to. So if you're a singer, as it says, you sing for the Lord. If you're a musician, because for this Prabhu Gauravani, he said that he became a musician because of Bob Marley, but singing transcendental songs. So he has a talent, he sings. So it is saying that whatever talent we have, we should serve the Lord.
Gauravani said that?
Yes, I met him at Gitanagari, and I told him I was from Jamaica. I said I became a musician because of Bob Marley. So it was kind of
good for him. He's doing good service now.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So does everyone understand that? Would someone else like to say something about this very important point about using the talents that Krishna has given us in his service? I know, Chaitanya, you have so much talent and you're using it in his service. And Kate also is a yoga teacher. She's using it. Everyone is using their own talent, and we must cultivate that, because then we'll become happy and we'll be using what Krishna gave us to serve him.
For those who know about the history of ISKCON, and especially Rath Yatra, the devotee Jayananda was a perfect example of this. When he first joined, he had been an engineer. He had gone to school. He was well educated, a little older than most of the other devotees at the time. He even drove a taxi cab for a while just to get some income and help pay for the temple, maintenance and everything like that. But he used his multi-practical life talents. He was a mechanic. He was an engineer. There's a nice video on the internet about the life of Jayananda, and I was watching it because the day before Lord Nrsingadev's appearance day was his disappearance day. So The Life of Jayananda, it's called. And by watching his life in Krishna consciousness, simultaneously you see the evolution of the Roth carts from the first one, which was a truck that was rented in San Francisco in 67, 68, up until the 1976 Rath Yatra, where Srila Prabhupada drove down Fifth Avenue on these beautiful Roth carts. He used his natural abilities. So it's not just music, it's not just art, it's anything that one can do. That's why society at large is all under the control and under the shelter of the Supreme Lord, and anything can be used in his service. So whatever talents one has are to be used in that service. That's the purport of this topic, where everybody was glorifying the Lord by whatever that means they could.
So this is liberating. It's a liberating topic to see that it's confirmed, because sometimes we feel like, oh, I would like to do this, but maybe it's Maya. It's not Maya if you do it for Krishna. Of course, nothing like too absurd, but you know, we have to tap our own self to develop our individual relationship with Krishna. That's what this whole thing is about.
I'm thinking also just recently, we saw that Tisha has been trained in hospitality and works in a hotel and moved here to Alachua, and somehow or another connected with Bhadra Prabhu, who runs the Rath Yatras. And now she's very engaged. Just recently, we had a Rath Yatra in Jacksonville, and she was very instrumental in helping arrange everything. Took care of the mayor who came from Jacksonville Beach, and made sure she was cared, because she knows the hospitality industry. It's very good.
Very good. Jai. Good. Okay, so that's good. So we don't have to be insecure about it. Of course, I'm talking to myself. 50 years of trying not to be me. It didn't work. I always come through somehow or another. Hare Krishna. Okay. Let's go on in red. Nandaji, would you like to read? Let's see. Nanda?
Coming, okay.
Yes. Okay.
Srimad Bhagavatam 10:12:35. When Lord Brahma heard the wonderful ceremony going on near his planet, accompanied by music and songs and sounds of Jai, Jai.
Wait a second. That's not the right verse, I don't think. Did we already do Srimad Bhagavatam 10:12:34?
Yes, we read about all the demigods.
Oh, this is the one. Oh
singing.
my God, I'm sorry. That's the one. Sorry, Nandaji.
Lord Brahma heard the music.
Okay, I'll start again. When Lord Brahma heard the wonderful ceremony going on near his planet, accompanied by music and songs and sounds of Jai, Jai, he immediately came down to see the function. On seeing so much glorification of Lord Krishna, he was completely astonished. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Here, the word anti means near, indicating that even in the higher planetary systems near Brahmaloka, like Maharloka, Janaloka, and Tapaloka, the festival of glorification of Lord Krishna was going on.
Okay, what can you tell us about that?
Well, I wonder how near Mahaloka and Tapaloka and Janaloka are to Brahmaloka. I guess it's all a question of perspective, isn't it, to say that it's near there? But anyway, this is the part, as Acharya already spoiled the alert, that Brahma's about to forget that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's thinking, this is like this, what do you call it? The beginning of the seed of doubt. Because what's all this? What's all this? What's all this glorification? He's just a little coward boy, so it's the beginning of a bigger episode.
It's interesting. You brought up the point that Gaur Govinda Maharaj mentioned with the straw in the boiling milk. Apparently, everybody else in the universe knew what happened. They were having a festival at Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka. Everybody's glorifying Krishna, and somehow or another, Brahma heard about it, and he comes down, but he gets bewildered in the whole event. It's
I guess we all have. I guess we all have our individual pots of milk that are boiling, and the straw comes up at different times and then goes down.
I have a question about that. I have a question that Lord Brahma actually it doesn't matter his proximity, really. He knows everything that's going on in the universe. He does. He is in charge of everything that's going on in the universe. But is it possible that due to pride, just asking, that who are these people? He's feeling more superior to everyone else. His children, everybody is doing nicely. He's supervising the universe. I mean, he's in charge of the whole universe, and that feeling of being superior, which is natural, would enter there. Would it be due to pride that Lord Brahma would be astonished?
I would say that it's due to Krishna's Yoga Maya potency, because he wants to expand or explain or bring home or reiterate the point that, without his mercy, you can't understand anything, or, various points that he wants to make with that pastime. That's how. And I was thinking of when you were talking about Brahma. I was thinking of Indra, similar circumstance, Vrindavan. I mean, you figure Indra became angry when the residents of when on Krishna's request, they stopped doing the Indra Yagya and they did the Govardhan Puja. And you think of the circumstances, there was that little time, perspective. The little tiny village of Vrindavan not offering their respects to Indra through the Indra Puja. How quote unquote significant is that in the sense of the whole, all the verses offering their respects? It's not that significant, but it's made significant to bring home a point. That's
I see.
But other people have things to say too. I can see that.
Okay, let's see. Cheta, would you like to say, and then Manvantara?
Haribol, Danava Pranams, everyone. The phrase at the end of this verse saying, upon seeing so much glorification of Lord Krishna, he was completely astonished. So that indicates to me that he's feeling unsettled. He's astonished. He wasn't expecting it. If he really had full appreciation of Lord Krishna's glories, it wouldn't be so astonishing. It would be natural. Of course, we want to glorify Krishna. But Lord Brahma is thinking, why is this Krishna getting so much attention? He's astonished because it doesn't fully make sense to him. So I really agree with Nanda's observation that this is the beginning of Lord Brahma's bewilderment. He's entertaining the idea that maybe this isn't appropriate.
Ooh, good. Manvantara, thank you. Manvantaraji?
Unmute. Okay.
Are you speaking, Manvantara?
Yeah, so this Brahmaloka, let's see, Maraloka, Jnanaloka, are we to assume that this is our four-headed Brahma, or another Brahma? I mean,
no, it's our four-headed Brahma.
It's Krishna's Leela, right? So it's our four-headed Brahma.
Yes.
Okay,
our
that was my
four-headed Brahma. Yeah.
And then the other question is, it didn't yet answer Predicate Maharaj's question, and we're at the end of the chapter. So how long did Krishna wait before entering the serpent's mouth, the python mouth?
How long did he wait?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that Krishna speaking to us through that? It must be. Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, my
How long did
phone was
Krishna
ringing
wait?
and it's by the thing.
That's
I'm
a great phone ring. Okay, let's think of.
Sorry.
Remember that question.
It's interesting
That's
you
a
can
good
hear
one.
that, and then my voice is breaking up on this thing. I don't understand why.
Okay, well, let's try that again. That's a good question. Acharya, do you know the answer of that question? How long did Krishna wait before he went into the mouth of Aghasura?
I have no idea. I have a separate related comment.
Okay, well, we'll get back to that question in a second. What did you have to say, Acharyaji?
Yeah, I was the word describing Lord Brahma's astonishment, and the Sanskrit word used in the verse is Vishmaya. And actually that word has a wide range of meanings, including bewilderment and ignorance, and also pride and arrogance. So there's like sort of subtle shades of meaning in the Prabhupada chose to translate it as astonishment, but there's shades of meaning in that word that may hint at Lord Brahma's state of mind also.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So many things would be at play. Thank you.
As the Leela unfolds, we'll see more clearly also with his actions and the purports quite clearly reveal where he was, what he was thinking.
Patsy, do you know the answer of
It doesn't seem like he
Manvantara's-
waited a very long time. He was waiting for the intelligence to understand what to do. It mentioned he was feeling separation from his friends, and entered the mouth of the demon. That's how he did it.
It was pretty, there wasn't that much time in his contemplation of what to do.
Doesn't appear to be.
No, not at all. Okay. Is that all right, Manvantara? Okay. Okay. Nanda read. Cheta, would you like to read? Cheta Mai?
Dandavat pranams. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 12, 36, and 37. O King Pariksit, when the python-shaped body of Aghasur dried up into merely a big skin, it became a wonderful place for the inhabitants of Vrindavan to visit, and it remained so for a long, long time. This incident of Krishna saving himself and his associates from death and of giving deliverance to Aghasur, who had assumed the form of a python, took place when Krishna was 5 years old. It was disclosed in Vrajabhumi after 1 year, as if it had taken place on that very day. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, there was another astonishing event which you should hear about. Though Krishna saved his friends and liberated Aghasur when he was 5 years old, Komarajam, the cowherd boys reported the incident when they were 6 years old, Poganda. It was disclosed in Vrajabhumi after 1 year, as if the incident had taken place on that very day.
I think we can just go to the next one some because it continues the conversation between these two. You have to unmute.
Okay, continue reading.
Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 12, 38. Krishna is the cause of all causes. The causes and effects of the material world, both higher and lower, are all created by the Supreme Lord, the original controller. When Krishna appeared as the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, he did so by his causeless mercy. Consequently, for him to exhibit his unlimited opulence was not at all wonderful. Indeed, he showed such great mercy that even Aghasur, the most sinful miscreant, was elevated to being one of his associates and achieving Sarupya Mukti, which is actually impossible for materially contaminated persons to attain. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Krishna is the cause of all causes. He is the creator of cause and effect, and he is the supreme controller. Nothing is impossible for him. Therefore, when he enabled even a living being like Aghasur to attain the salvation of Sarupya Mukti, was not at all wonderful for Krishna. Krishna took pleasure in entering the mouth of Aghasur in a sporting spirit along with his associates. Therefore, when Aghasur, by that sporting association, as maintained in the spiritual world, was purified of all contamination, he attained Sarupya Mukti and Vimukti by the grace of Krishna. For Krishna, this was not at all Wonderful.
So,
The Prabhupada.
what do you think about these two verses? I'd like, excuse me. Krishna took pleasure. He does not do anything that does not please him. He is pleasure seeking. So, excuse me, you better talk. Comment upon that as well as the rest of the verse. How Krishna is taking pleasure in this, all of this.
We are drawn into the Leela, and we are drawn to appreciate Aghasura's part in that Leela. And therefore, he's not, this duality of demon and deva disappears in the mix, because now he's an integral part, and Krishna is employing him, and therefore it becomes holistic. Krishna's welcoming the chance to sport, and only Aghasura's demoniac python body was appropriate for that Leela. So it's very beautiful how Krishna can arranges every little thing to be part of his pastimes. And just to prove that there's no duality, he gives him Sarupya Mukti. It's very wonderful. And we're also being given that as an example to say, if we just, like you were saying, Sama, to use our gifts, if we just use our gifts, even if we're given the body of a python, if we just use our gifts to serve Krishna, then we also become part of this beautiful holistic pastime.
You know, you just answered the whole question if there was ever any doubt. You just completely answered it, because that's what happened. Aghasura gave his gift of this demon python body. He used it for Krishna to sport with, and for Krishna's friends to sport in. That you solved it for me.
Jai Gurudev.
I also appreciated one of the forms, I think it was Acharya Prabhu found in the Garga Samhita, that in a previous life, Aghasura was cursed by Astravakra. And therefore, just like Manigriva and Nalakuvara were blessed to see Krishna after the curse of Narada Muni, similarly, Astavakra's curse resulted in the end of the suffering of Aghasura, that he actually got the benediction from Krishna. Nanda?
Yeah, hi, Haribol. I have a question regarding those, the mukti, Sarupya Mukti and everything. In order to attain any of those 5 muktis, this is a question, this is part of the question, one has to be purified, right? It's not that, they have to be pure, right? Does that mean that they must have, and I'm not, this part of the question isn't about Aghasura particularly, but to get Sarupya Mukti, they have to have pure devotional service, right? Something has to be there, right? Some understanding of pure devotional service, right?
Certainly.
Well, you know, in the purport, wasn't saying that Aghasura thought of Krishna in devotion for 1 second.
Yeah.
And therefore he got the purification. Didn't it say that in the purport?
Yeah, I hear that, what you're saying, and I remember that.
Yeah.
But my question is about the mukti. So, but I'm just using that example. So I'm not questioning that Aghasura didn't have pure service to get Sarupya. My question is, to get Sarupya Mukti, one has to have pure devotional service, correct?
Yeah.
So
okay, go ahead. I'm just wondering if Ian and there's somebody else that have their hands raised. Do they have some insight in that? And what was there more, Nanda?
Yeah. And the question is what I don't understand is Sarupya Mukti, getting the same form of the Lord. How is it that that's not a personal desire, that I want to have the form? You know what I mean? I don't get that. How is it pure devotionals? I don't get what's that. I don't get it. A bodily form like the Lord, how is that an exhibition of my desire to serve the Lord?
You know, how conscious are we of our eternal Swarup, really. How that goes into a whole other thing. Just because we're not thinking of ourselves as a resident of Vaikuntha or Vrindavan, we have the sadhana to purify. This is the whole crux of our Gaudiya Sampradaya. We have the sadhana to purify our existence, and then it will come. You know, even if you don't have the desire to be this for Krishna or that for Krishna. But of course, if you have an inclination, that seems as though you would get a body suitable to fulfill it. If you're purified, because sometimes some of our inclinations aren't real based on the bodily concept. Does that make any sense? You look doubtful.
I don't understand how you're answering her question.
That's
Well,
what
she's saying that, okay,
No, she's asking about Swarupya Mukti.
yeah, I know.
Do
what
you
she's
need
asking.
to have pure devotional service to attain it? That's
But
my
then
answer. Is
the
that the
second
question?
part, wasn't the second part, if I don't think of myself as a four-armed form in wanting to associate with Krishna, how come I will get it? No, that
Because,
wasn't okay.
well, there's an answer to that one, which is not far-fetched.
Well, it wasn't her
If a
question.
if a yogi or a person with devotion is always meditating on the form of the Lord, then their devotion, if they cultivate it such that they want to serve that form of the Lord, that form of the Lord's devotees also have that form. That Vaikuntha is filled with those living entities. On each planet where there's a presiding deity of a four-armed Istadev for the planet, all the devotees who live on that planet have a similar form that they serve the Lord with. So by cultivating that type of devotion, they receive that type of liberation.
Okay, thanks. That helps. That's what my
What about the rest of her question? Do you have to be engaged in devotional service to get a Swarupya?
Yes, yes. The point, all living entities are servants of the Lord in varying types, and there are unlimited features of that. Lord Chaitanya and the type of devotion and the flavor of devotion that he's brought to this world in Kali Yuga is described in the verses glorifying him, extremely rare and extremely unique. So for us to look at other sampradayas or other time periods, other Kali Yugas, Treta Yugas, Satya Yugas, Dwapara Yugas, and devotees that are engaged in different activities during those times, since every living entity has an inherent nature, the development of their devotion for a particular form of the Lord who advents at that time. For example, when Lord Ramachandra advented, he advented along with some of his Nitya Siddha associates, but also different sadhana siddhas had come to the universe where he was performing his pastimes to associate with those Nitya Siddhas and ultimately go back to Ayodhya. Same with all the other incarnations of the Lord. They have eternal abodes in the spiritual world. Different souls in their sojourns throughout the universes go to that one universe where he's performing those leelas, and then go back, having been purified, to their eternal associate with him in that leela and in that rasa that they've eternally awakened.
Okay. Ian, did you want to say something?
Yes. In the subject of what the demons represent, I read with Agasura and I think Pranamba and somebody else, they're actually devotees of the Lord. They were picking flowers to offer in a place where they should not be doing it. So they were cursed. So I'm saying, okay, that's why, okay, because we are wondering how he got that side of liberation. So there's a Swami, I'm not sure what the name is, but he lists the demons, what they represent, and if there were some, one who say backstory, so to speak. So so who became Aghasura was actually a devotee. So what I read is that they were picking flowers to offer, but
Oh.
they were picking it at a place where it should not be, so they were cursed.
Ooh.
Yes, and I don't remember what this one, but if you type in what the demons represent, you'll find it's a PDF file that I say. I'm sure. I'm sorry, I don't have it. Can't get it now, but that's what I read. So I was saying, oh yes, that's why. Yes, he got, because he was actually a devotee, but he was cursed, so that's why. Yes,
Oh,
that's
very
what I read. Yeah,
Thank
Harley
you.
Boy.
Thank you. Ooh, okay, good. All right. Very good. Let's go on. Thank you, everyone, with Faye reading. I don't even think we got to the next chapter yet.
Is Faye able to read some?
Oh, I don't know.
She wrote a letter that her health might not be. Are you okay,
Well,
Faye? There's quite a
yes.
lot. Okay, do you
Thank
want to
you.
also
She
read
wants
the
to read.
purport?
Hare Krishna,
Okay,
Hare
go ahead.
Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam 10:12-39. If even only once, or even by force, one brings the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead into one's mind, one can attain the supreme salvation by the mercy of Krishna, as did Aghasura. What then is it to be said of those whose hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead enters when he appears as an incarnation? Or those who always think of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the source of transcendental bliss for all living entities and by whom all illusion is completely removed?
Go on.
Purport. The process for receiving the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is described here. Simply by thinking of Krishna, one can attain him very easily. Krishna is also described as having his lotus feet always within the hearts of his devotees. In the case of Aghasura, one may argue that he was not a devotee. The answer to this is that he thought of Krishna for a moment with devotion. Without devotion, one cannot think of Krishna. And conversely, whenever one thinks of Krishna, one undoubtedly has devotion. Although Aghasura's purpose was to kill Krishna, for a moment Aghasura thought of Krishna with devotion, and Krishna and his associates wanted to sport within Aghasura's mouth. Especially when Krishna appears as an avatar, one who thinks of Krishna in his different incarnations, and especially in his original form as Krishna, attains salvation. There are many instances of this, and among them is Aghasura, who obtained the salvation of Sarup Mukti. Therefore, the process is
Satatam kitayanto mam yatantas cha dridhavrataha.
Thank you. From the Bhagavad Gita 9.14. Those who are devotees always engage in glorifying Krishna. When we speak of Krishna, we refer to all his avatars, such as Krishna, Govinda, Narayan, Vishnu, Lord Chaitanya, Krishna Balaram, and Sai Sundara. One who always thinks of Krishna must attain Vikmuti, special salvation, as the Lord's personal associate, not necessarily in Vrindavan, but at least in Vaikuntha. This is called Sarup Mukti.
Ah, there you go. That seems to be also the answer of Nanda's question, just thinking of Krishna. We attain that. But do you have anything to add to this, Faye?
No, Mataji, I do not. I think it's very profound in and of itself.
Yes, this is true. Okay, does anyone else? Okay, so then.
Hare Krishna, I have
I just was wondering if we could reflect on where he says,
Oh.
even if by force, if we think of Krishna, I mean, what about when we operate from that level? Because I feel sometimes that is, we force, what happens if that's where we are operating from? And is the
Well-
idea that we force it and then it becomes automatic? Is that?
No, actually, you know what? My understanding from that is that Krishna puts us in situations where we are forced to think of him. Right? He rips away the material energy or the things from our lives that we think we are most dependent upon, and he stands in the way. And then we're forced, we have no other shelter. We have so many stories, our real life stories, and even in the Bhagavatam, throughout all the Vedic literature, we hear stories of devotees, of even non-devotees, forced to think of God because nothing's working out in the world, or certain things haven't worked out, or the greatest treasure of our life is gone. And we're forced to think of Krishna, and that's his mercy. That's what it means to me.
Oh, okay. Because I think she was talking about, like, in the beginning of your sadhana bhakti, you're more or less not doing it out of love. You're developing that, but you're forcing yourself. And then, and isn't that one of the, couldn't that verse also be applied to that? Am I correct in the interpretation, Kate?
Yeah, that was more, I mean, sometimes it's easy to remember God or Krishna when we have, like you were describing, Mataji, but I'm talking more about, in day to day in our sadhana, sometimes it feels forceful, to sit down and.
We're very covered up by material energy, very covered up. We think we're the body. We think we're this body and everything related to it. That's who we are. This is our world. It's a very foreign thing to have Krishna. So that's what sadhana bhakti is. We have to force ourselves. We have to chant the holy name. We have to read and hear about Krishna. We have to engage in Vaidhi Bhakti, which means the rules and regulations and following the system. And this is very important. That's why Prabhupada set up this whole program of attending the temple program and reading the books and associating with devotees and offering prasadam. These are methods that we will be able to think of Krishna. That's my understanding. Anyone else? Charya, you got something to say about that?
No, nothing to add here, Mataji. Thank you.
Patsy?
Yeah, I'm getting this verse, and if we look at the actual Sanskrit, it may give us some insight. The word for word is interesting. Here's the verse, and it's describing here the word mana mai, actually antaha ahita, placing within the core of the heart somehow or other. Then he clarifies mana mai, thinking of him even by force.
Would that be the form of the Lord? Would that be
Yeah,
thinking of the form of the Lord?
Yes. Yeah, if one only
Form
once
of
by
the
force
Lord.
brings the form of the Lord, one can attain salvation.
Or any form of the Lord, not only Krishna, but of course,
Right.
Krishna is the most important form.
So it seems to me like this is a pretty broad, however you can do it.
However
Even
you
by
can do it.
force.
By force, yeah.
However you can do it, that's good for the living entity.
You know, last week, I don't know if I said this last week, that I was just listening to a lecture. Prabhupada was saying this, and I think I might have told everybody, maybe it was in a different group. They were walking around Venice Boulevard in Los Angeles, where the temple is, and there was this one man who used to run every morning. I mean, he was out there every morning and he ran. And Prabhupada, and he passed by, and Prabhupada looked at him, and he said, "See, he can run. He is running every day. He is running. I cannot do that, but if I practice, I can do it." So if Prabhupada said if he ran every day like that man, then he would be a runner too. So it's a matter of practice. You know, there's an old kind of a Jewish story that one guy is saying, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And Carnegie Hall was a big place where you play all concerts were going on in all throughout the 1900s. It's still there, Carnegie Hall in New York City. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. That's how you get there. So if you want to get to Krishna, you have to practice, practice, practice. And it's worth it. It's worth it. I mean, I'm hearing from the best, the acharyas. It's worth it.
I think this verse is, how do you say, reinforcing that. Yes, substantiating that. If only once, even by force, one can attain the supreme salvation by the mercy of Krishna.
Yeah, and that's what we want. We want the supreme salvation, for goodness sake. Hare Krishna. Ian, and then we should go on. I don't know if we're going to be able to finish the rest of it.
Yeah, quickly. So I'm thinking about Ajamil, the story about Ajamil. Yes, actually, but he named his son Narayan. So, at the end of his life, Narayan, and, the Vishnu Duta, the Yamadutas came on the whole discourse. Yeah, so over, we are able to. It works.
Good boy. That's a great example. Practicing throughout his life, and then in a moment of desperation, he calls his son Narayan. Thank God he named his son Narayan. All right. Oh, we're not finished. Okay, here we go. Acharya just walked out, I think. And so what happened? Kate, would you like to read this? Kate?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 12, 40 through 44. Sri Suta Goswami said, O learned saints, the childhood pastimes of Sri Krishna are very wonderful. Maharaj Parikshit, after hearing about those pastimes of Krishna, who had saved him in the womb of his mother, became steady in his mind and again inquired from Sukadev Goswami to hear about those pious activities. Maharaj Parikshit inquired, O great sage, how could things done in the past have been described as being done at the present? Lord Sri Krishna performed this pastime of killing Aghasur during his Kumara age. How then, during his Paganda age, could the boys have described this incident as having happened recently? O greatest yogi, my spiritual master, kindly describe why this happened. I am very much curious to know about it. I think that it was nothing but another illusion due to Krishna. O my Lord, my spiritual master, although we are the lowest of Kshatriyas, we are glorified and benefited because we have the opportunity of always hearing from you the nectar of pious activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Suta Goswami said, O Shanika, greatest of saints and devotees, when Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Sukadev Goswami in this way, Sukadev Goswami immediately, remembering subject matters about Krishna within the core of his heart, externally lost contact with the actions of the senses. Thereafter, with great difficulty, he revived his external sensory perception and began to speak to Maharaj Parikshit about Krishna Katha.
That's what it does to a pure devotee. And he starts to speak about Krishna. We saw that with Prabhupada sometimes. He would go into a trance because of this transcendental nectar. I think we should go on to the next chapter because at least we should read for a while. Thank you, Kate, because we've had a lot of discussions so far. Acharya, why don't you start off this for us?
Chapter 13, the stealing of the boys and calves by Brahma. Canto 10, Chapter 13, text 1 through 3. Srila Shukadev Goswami said, O best of devotees, most fortunate Parikshit, you have inquired very nicely, for although constantly hearing the pastimes of the Lord, you are perceiving his activities to be newer and newer. Paramahamsas, devotees who have accepted the essence of life, are attached to Krishna in the core of their hearts, and he is the aim of their lives. It is their nature to talk only of Krishna at every moment, as if such topics were newer and newer. They are attached to such topics just as materialists are attached to topics of women and sex. O king, Kindly hear me with great attention. Although the activities of the Supreme Lord are very confidential, no ordinary man being able to understand them, I shall speak about them to you, for spiritual masters explain to a submissive disciple even subject matters that are very confidential and difficult to understand.
Okay, why don't you read the purport?
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Unless one is very advanced in Krishna consciousness, one cannot stick to hearing the pastimes of the Lord constantly. Even though advanced devotees hear continually about the Lord for years, they still feel that these topics are coming to them as newer and fresher. Therefore, such devotees cannot give up hearing of the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena santak sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. The word santa is used to refer to persons who have developed love for Krishna. Parikshit Maharaj, therefore, is addressed as Bhagavatottama, the best of devotees, because unless one is very much elevated in devotional service, one cannot feel ecstasy from hearing more and more and appreciate the topics as ever fresher and newer. The nature of persons who have taken to spiritual life and Krishna consciousness, understanding Krishna to be the life and soul of everyone, is that they cannot give up Krishna Katha or topics of Krishna at any moment. Such Paramahamsas always see Krishna within the core of the heart. What is day for the materialistic person is night for the spiritualist. What is very sweet for the materialist, namely women and money, is regarded as poison by the spiritualist. This is the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For the Paramahamsa, Krishna is everything, but for the materialist, women and money are everything.
This is such a jam-packed purport and verses. Would you like to say something? Because I have one question, but I'll ask after you tell me.
I wanted to say something about the chapter transition from the last to this. Can I say something there?
Yes, please.
That I was loving so much, even if you forget, put aside for the moment that Krishna, and of course, this verse now is all about, this is Krishna Katha. But even if you put aside that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and these are transcendental, this has been like such perfect, just from the literary point of view, such amazing storytelling, like perfect storytelling, that we're dropping hints about the state of mind of Lord Brahma, what's going on with him. And at the end of the chapter, you get this incredible cliffhanger that, okay, this happened for 5 years when he was 5 years old, but no one knew about it until for a whole year. And if you could imagine never having heard this before, like Parikshit Maharaj, you're saying, oh, a whole year went by, how come? And it's such a perfect cliffhanger and such a teaser that of course you're going to go to the next chapter and go on and on and on, just because even from literary point of view, it's so amazingly constructed. And I was just really loving that here.
Well, you're going to want to go on because you have developed that taste for it, and you are one of the pure devotees that is being spoken of in these verses. But
regarding that, before
I read lots of mundane things, so I'm definitely not one of those.
Hare Krishna.
Just tagging along with that thought you and I had discussed, Sama, how not only is that part of the intricate literary ornaments, but for the author to go all the way back to Suta Goswami speaking to Shonaka, and rather than just saying, well, Sukadev Goswami answered the question, he goes all the way back to the sages of Namaksanya, just to give the reader a little bit of flavor of what's going on here, what's the whole big picture. And then it's just a few sentences by Suta Goswami, but it did bring it back to that and then transitioned it. I also appreciated that. Thanks for bringing it up and speaking.
Yeah, that's a terrific point also about Suta Goswami, that, so we're reminded of the whole context of the Bhagavatam, yes, and how it's constructed and how it develops. Yeah, that's very nice.
Prabhupada was saying today on another lecture why don't they just believe it? It's right in front of their faces. This is Krishna. Krishna is saying it. Who are you? I should believe you. This is Krishna. This is atheism. That's what's unfortunate. One more thing.
Yeah, you had something else for this?
You want to put back to the verses? This, Acharya, if you could read this last, put it to the verses, Pati. Yeah, the last paragraph. This is really something that Prabhupada really stressed. Want to read that last paragraph?
Sorry. O King, kindly hear me with great attention. Although the activities of the Supreme Lord are very confidential, no ordinary man being able to understand them, I shall speak about them to you for spiritual masters explain to a submissive disciple even subject matters that are very confidential and difficult to understand.
Okay, so what was that? Do you remember what Prabhupada how he advised us to always hear? What was that famous statement? What is that? Do you remember?
I'm actually not sure.
Submissive oral reception.
Oh, yes.
Submissive oral reception. And if you give submissive oral reception, that means you are hearing with full faith. Then the spiritual master can bestow this upon you. None of this is going to mean anything to anyone unless they hear from the perfect person that they can put all their faith in and hear completely submissively. Because that's why the rascals that Prabhupada talks about, they are not being elevated to Krishna consciousness because they don't trust. There's no trust. There's no faith. They've been burnt so many times. So we have Prabhupada submissive oral reception. That's the only way to achieve this transcendental knowledge.
There's another point being that's kind of a hidden meaning,
Yes.
where not hidden, it's right in front of the reader, but he's saying here that a spiritual master can explain subject matters very confidential that no more ordinary people know, and they're difficult to understand. When one is searching for a spiritual master or accepting a spiritual master, that's an essential part of the relationship. We recently read a book or got a book that somebody gave us that we were looking through it, and the person was presenting that one should have a very friendly relationship with his guru and spend a lot of time with him, and it kind of turns more into a friendship than a spiritual master disciple relationship. And there are elements of that, but at the same time, simultaneous to that, the disciple is always the disciple and the spiritual master is always the spiritual master. And a proper spiritual master can understand these things that are extremely esoteric and confidential, not commonly known.
And also supporting what you just said, Krishna says, Arjuna says, okay, enough friendly talk.
Yeah.
Because in friendly talk, there's equals. There's no equality between the disciple and the spiritual master. There's nothing equal about them. And if you think they're equal, then you're not involved with the spiritual master. You're the absolute servant of the guru.
We have 3 or 4 more slides.
Yeah, let's go on. I'm sorry. These are wonderful verses that it's irresistible. Okay. Manvantara. Can you read Manvantara? Let's try it. Let's see.
Chapter 13, texts 4 through 6. Then after saving the boys and calves from the mouth of Aghasura, who was death personified, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, brought them all to the bank of the river and spoke the following words. My dear friends, just see how this riverbank is extremely beautiful because of its pleasing atmosphere. And just see how the blooming lotuses are attracting bees and birds by their aroma. The humming and chirping of the bees and birds is echoing throughout the beautiful trees in the forest. Also, hear the sands are clean and soft. Therefore, this must be considered the best place for our sporting and pastimes. I think we should take our lunch here, since we are already hungry because the time is very late. Here the calves may drink water and go slowly. I can't see that last line,
Here
sorry.
and there, and eat the grass.
Keep going,
Thank
keep
you.
going. Go to the next one now. Keep going, Mandatara, we're doing good.
Accepting Lord Krishna's proposal, the cowherd boys allowed the calves to drink water from the river and then tied them to trees where there was green, tender grass. Then the boys opened their baskets of food and began eating with Krishna in great transcendental pleasure. Like the whirl of a lotus flower surrounded by its petals and leaves, Krishna sat in the center, encircled by lines of his friends, who all looked very beautiful. Every one of them was trying to look forward toward Krishna, thinking that Krishna might look toward him. In this way, they all, I can't see that
Enjoyed
last.
their lunch in the forest. Go on. It's just a little
I
bit
don't think she
purple.
can see the next one, some, because it's lower on the page.
I read it.
I'm talking
In
about the
this
next.
way, they
I'm
all
talking- I'm
enjoyed their
talking-
lunch.
I'm talking about this. Oh, I guess you can see this.
Oh, yeah, of course you can. Go on, Mandatara, just
Purport.
finish this up.
If by accumulating pious activities, Krita Punya Punya, one is raised to the platform of pure devotional service, Krishna is always visible in the core of one's heart. One who has attained such perfection is all beautiful and transcendental bliss. The present Krishna consciousness movement is an attempt to keep Krishna in the center, for if this is done, all activities will automatically become beautiful and blissful.
Wow. So that's beautiful. Can you say something about that, Mandatara? That's another literary beautiful thing, keeping Krishna in the center while they're taking lunch. And now we have to follow that by keeping Krishna in the center in all of our activities. What do you think, Mandatara? Such a nice.
Yeah, I agree. It is very poetic as well, written by Srila Prabhupada. And you're right. So Krishna is aligned by the shape of the lotuses with his friends and associates. And we're encouraged to do the same things with the activities in our lives.
Right.
Keeping Krishna in the center, like the symbol of the lotus.
Wonderful. That's a beautiful example. And I know, Mandatara, you cook for the deities on Sundays, don't you, in the afternoon? Sometimes?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I prepare Raj Bhoga. Sunday
beautiful.
Raj Bhoga.
That's beautiful. It reminds me of this picture because they're all eating their nice food. Isn't that
If only,
beautiful?
if only.
If only. Yes, only. Yes, you're doing it, so you're being practiced, trained up. Okay, let's go on. And Tisha, why don't you finish up for us? Thank you, Mandatara.
Srimad Bhagavatam 10:13, 9 through 11. Among the cowherd boys, some placed their lunch on flowers, some on leaves, fruits, or bunches of leaves, some actually in their baskets, some on the bark of trees, and some on rocks. This is what the children imagined to be their plates as they ate their lunch. All the cowherd boys enjoyed their lunch with Krishna, showing one another the different tastes of the different varieties of preparations they had brought from home. Tasting one another's preparations, they began to laugh and make one another laugh. Krishna is Yajnabhuk. That is, he eats only offerings of yajna. But to exhibit his childhood pastimes, he now sat with his flute tucked between his waist and his tight cloth on his right side, and with his horn, bugle, and cow driving stick on his left. Holding in his hand a very nice preparation of yogurt and rice, with pieces of suitable fruit between his fingers, he sat like the whirl of a lotus flower, looking forward toward all his friends, personally joking with them and creating jubilant laughter among them as he ate. At that time, the denizens of heaven were watching, struck with wonder at how the personality of Godhead, who eats only in yajna, was now eating with his friends in the forest.
Isn't that amazing? What do you have to say about that, Tisha?
I love I love that part the best, just to imagine the cowherd boys picking different things out of the forest and using them as their plates and sharing their food. And it just seems like such a celebration of togetherness, and then wanting to catch Krishna's glance and Krishna eating their food. It was like a party. It just seemed great. Association.
Definitely a party.
Yeah.
Every day's a festival. Okay, well, that brings
Actually,
us to the end of this.
it's beautiful description, Tisha. Thank you. But what happens is that this verse describing that Krishna eats only Yagya book, that he eats only the offerings of Yagya, but now he seems to be partying with cowherd boyfriends in the forest. This is the setup for Brahma, who's now coming down from the heavenly planets, as described earlier. And when he sees this scene, he can't put together in his mind how this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This just looks like a bunch of boys partying in the forest with cows and eating each other's food. Who would ever eat the Supreme Personality of Godhead? How could they eat off his plate or share food with him? So it's a perfect description of events to come.
And he, the Supreme Personality of God, eat off their plate.
Yes. Yeah, both ways. Nice.
That's very intimate. But we can have we can hear about these intimate things by submissive oral reception, hearing from the self-realized soul. And we're all very fortunate to be able to, that these things are right there for us to hear. And thank you all for participating in this hearing process, hearing from Prabhupada. Thank you. Anything?
Yes,
any
thank you
last
all
words?
for your weekly association.
Yes.
Which brings me to explain just for everyone's schedule. We're in the month of June now, and we're in the chapter of Lord Brahma stealing the calves and cows. What we'll do is during June complete this chapter, and then we'll take a couple of months off. We usually don't have classes in July and August. Don't know about September. Usually there's a lot going on there. So what we'll do is pick up with Lord Brahma offering his prayers, which is a very famous chapter and way too deep and complex to do during the summer. So we'll do that in the autumn when we pick up again, just so everybody understands the schedule that we'll be following.
2 months without this is going to be hard.
Exactly.
Yeah, it will be. So nice. Your association is wonderful.
Thank
Okay.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Vanchakapatubhyastha,
Thank you, Hare
Glory to
Krishna.
the symbol of
Hare Krishna, have a good week.